You might have seen my video where I tested my engine mounts and found that they were both leaking vacuum. So rather than leave it any longer, I've decided to change them. So this particular one is the rear engine mount, is the front engine mount, clearly marked front there, and this one is the rear engine mount. So they are different. They might look the same, but if we put them next to each other, you can actually see a difference in the depth of them there. So don't be tempted, because they look the same, to just buy two. You can test both mounts individually. You don't have to replace them in pairs. It's just that both of mine are shot, so I'm changing them both at the same time. So we'll go out to the car, have a look, and I'll show you how to get these changed. Okay, so I've got the car up on ramps. I'm using ramps because I'm going to need the jack to jack up the engine. So I need to get these off here, the strut brace. So I'm going to undo these two bolts here, and then the same again on the other side. Take those two bolts off, just there and there, and then underneath, to disconnect the strut brace from the top mount, going to undo and remove that bolt there. Gets the strut brace off. And then underneath the car, you've got the lower gearbox torque mount, which needs removing because that's currently securing the gearbox and engine to the subframe. So it's two bolts here, and there's two bolts just on the other side. You can see them coming through, so I'll take off those four bolts there. Okay, and so now at this point, all I'm going to do is get a jack in place just where the gearbox, just in the seam of the gearbox there. Just going to get a jack in place. I'm not going to jack it up. I'm just going to put the jack in place so it's taking the strain of the engine, because I'm now going to undo the front mount. Okay, so I'll just remove the vacuum hose from the mount. Whether you can see that now. So the vacuum hose is off, and I've got the ratchet going down onto the top mount here, and I'm going to undo that now. And just be careful, because you've got the starter motor down there, and it has permanent live connection, so just be careful with metal tools. You don't want to short anything off. If you're a little bit nervous about these things, then just disconnect the negative lead of the battery. Okay, so that's the nut off there. We'll now do the lower one. Okay, so the lower one, just here, the bolt is inside that hole there. Okay, so now it's time to jack the engine up to release the mount. Okay, so we're nearly there. You can see the mount's very loose now. The bolt's almost going through, so I'll just do it a little bit more, and then the mount will just lift out. Okay, so the mount's out. See it just here. And I'll just send it downwards through the gap and pick it up on the floor. See it just there. Okay, so there's the old mount just there. Compare it with the new, put them side by side, just double check everything, and it's just basically then a question of putting this back into the gap, and we're away. Okay, so the new mount's in place. I've just slipped it in underneath, also lined up the vent tube, and all I'm going to do now is just gently lower the jack, and the engine will fall into place. Because the bottom of the mount is it's domed, so it'll locate itself, and as you can see the engine's lowered down now, the threads come through, and that's the front mount in place. So that's all ready to put the bottom bolt back in, and then the top bolt, hook up the vacuum hose, and that's the front mount done. Okay, so the rear mount then, a little bit trickier, but it's still the same, just a top bolt and a bottom bolt, and you can see on this it's just behind the turbo. So it's that top bolt just in the centre of the picture, the silvery one, and then just to the right is the vacuum attachment. So I'll need to undo those two, then I'll need to undo the bottom bolt, once again though supporting the gearbox with the jack, but further back this time, and I'll show you that now. Okay, so I've got the jack in place, but just further towards the back of the gearbox this time, just there, and I'll show you how to get to the bottom. Okay, so there's the mount just there, and what we do is we come further back, and hopefully if I can get the camera angle, let's see if I can see that bolt with the camera. I can see it with my eyes, but it's just whether I can get the camera in there. Right, there's the mount to the left of the picture, and there's the bolt just there. Let's see if I can get my finger on it. See where it is, just there, just where my thumb's waggling. So that's the bottom bolt there. So I'm going to have to get some thin spanners on that. Okay, so the bottom mount's undone. Sorry, the bottom bolt has been removed, the top nut has been removed. As you can see, it's nice and loose there. So all I need to do is just jack the engine up just enough to wheedle it out of the space. Just for a clearer picture, this is exactly where I'm jacking it, right towards the back of the gearbox. There's the mount there. Okay, so same again. Got the old one just here. This one's very obvious why it's knackered. Just all the rubber perished there. It's just completely gone, and it just won't hold any vacuum at all. Even this this is a high strength steel wrap which should be around it. Even that snapped off and was just hanging around. So there we go. So just compare again. Just make sure everything's okay dimensions wise, The only difference this time is that it's got this heat shield which must be transferred. So look at the way the heat shield goes there. Get your new one in exactly the same position and just transfer it straight over, and then it'll just be a question of lining it back up again. What you might find is when you put on a new mount, especially when you've got one that's knackered and collapsed like that, you might need to jack the engine up just a little bit more. It's a bit like when you jack your car up to take a flat, you know, a punctured wheel off, and then you have to jack it up more to put the wheel on that's actually got air in it. So just bear in mind they might not just slot straight into the space. So I'll get this back on. And going in this way is the best way. There's actually quite a nice big gap just this way, and you can see just where my finger's pointing, those two holes just there, that hole there and that hole there, and that's where the bolt and vacuum mount go through. So that's where you're needing to line it up. And once again, just like the front mount, because it's domed, you just need to get it roughly in position and just get that bottom bolt in and get this lined up nice and loose, still with the engine raised, and then gently lower the engine so it settles into position. Okay, and it'll be oriented that way with the heat shield facing towards you as you put it back on. So I'll just do that now. Okay, so we've got the mount lined up in the centre of the picture, and I'm just going to lower, I've got the bottom bolt in, I'm just going to lower lower the engine so the bolt will come through. Just do it slowly. Make sure that vacuum hose comes through nicely as well. There we go, lovely. So I can just put that bolt back on there, and the vacuum hose, it's just come out just further down there, the little black hose. I'll just plug that back in, and that's the rear mount done as well. Obviously tighten up the bolts, and also tighten up the bolts once they're jacked away from under the engine and the mounts have got the full load of the engine. Just tighten them again, just double check everything there. Then it's just a case of replacing the strut brace back on there, double check all of your work, and that's how you do your front and rear engine mounts. Look at that, nice and shiny. They'll last for years and years, and I hope you find that useful. Thanks very much for watching.